I remember the exact moment it happened. The way the words came out of his mouth, cold, sharp, and final. My brother, the person I once believed was my best friend, looked me in the eye and said, "Don't come to the wedding. You'll just ruin the photos." At first, I thought I misheard him. My heart was pounding so loudly in my chest that maybe I didn't catch it right. But then he repeated it, slower this time, almost as if he wanted each word to carve itself into my memory. "Don't. Come. You'll ruin it." I felt my stomach drop. It was like the ground beneath me had opened and swallowed me whole. I wanted to laugh, to brush it off as some cruel joke, but he wasn't joking. His face was expressionless, almost annoyed, like my presence in his life had become some kind of inconvenience. This was my brother, the boy I grew up with, the boy who used to sneak into my room at night during thunderstorms because he was scared, the boy who once held my hand on the first day of school so I wouldn't cry, the boy who promised me that no matter what, we'd always stick together. And yet here he was, looking at me like I was nothing more than a blemish on his perfect little wedding day. I thought about saying something, begging maybe, asking him why, asking him what I had done to deserve this, but the words caught in my throat. I realized in that moment that nothing I said would matter. His mind was made up. I should have cried. That's what any normal person would have done, right? Cry, break down, scream, demand an explanation. But I didn't cry. My eyes burned, but not a single tear fell. Instead, a strange calm settled over me. Fine, I thought. If my presence in his life was such a stain, then maybe it was time to remove myself completely. I didn't sleep that night. I sat on my bed, staring at the suitcase in the corner of my room. It had been gathering dust for months, waiting for the right time to be used. Suddenly, I knew that time had come. By sunrise, I had booked a flight. Not to the wedding. No, I was going somewhere else entirely. Somewhere I had always dreamed of, but never allowed myself to go. Because I was always too busy putting everyone else first. Too busy saving, sacrificing, being the dependable one, the invisible one. As I zipped up my suitcase and grabbed my passport, I glanced at my phone. Dozens of unread messages from family. All about the wedding. All about him, none about me. I turned the phone off. For once in my life, I wasn't going to be the one left behind. And as I stepped out the door, one thought echoed in my mind. If he thinks I'll ruin his photos, he has no idea what's coming next. When I stepped into the airport that morning, I felt like I was stepping into another version of myself. For years, I had been the girl who never made waves, the girl who always stayed behind, the one who swallowed her pain so others could be comfortable. But as I dragged my suitcase across the glossy tiles of the terminal, something inside me shifted. It was almost surreal. The intercom announcing flight numbers, the smell of coffee and perfume lingering in the air, the quiet buzz of people rushing to their gates, it all felt like freedom. I wasn't running away. No. I was finally running toward something. I clutched the boarding pass in my hand like it was a ticket to a new life. Rome. I had chosen Rome without even thinking twice. For years, I had filled notebooks with sketches of the Colosseum, written little bucket lists that always started with, "See the Trevi Fountain." But every time, I told myself I couldn't. Too expensive. Too selfish. Too impractical. There was always an excuse, not this time. As I sat down at the gate, waiting to board, I caught my reflection in the window. My eyes looked different, tired, yes, but also alive. There was a fire there I hadn't seen in a long time. A fire my brother's cruel words had accidentally reignited. "Don't come to the wedding. You'll ruin the photos." His voice still echoed in my head, but instead of breaking me, it fueled me. If I wasn't welcome in his carefully curated life, then maybe I was meant to create my own. When the boarding call came, my hands trembled. Not from fear, but from anticipation. As the plane lifted off the ground, the city I had known all my life shrank beneath the clouds. I whispered to myself, "Goodbye." The flight was long, but I didn't sleep. My mind replayed every memory of my brother. The good ones, him teaching me how to ride a bike, us laughing until we cried over something silly, and the bad ones. The way he had slowly stopped calling me, the way he excluded me from plans, the way he acted like my existence was some kind of inconvenience. I tried to make sense of it. Was it me? Had I done something to make him hate me? Or was it just easier for him to cut me out than to admit how much he relied on me? Because that was the truth no one else saw. He leaned on me more than he ever admitted. I was the one who helped balance his business accounts. I was the one who bailed him out when he overspent. I was the one who covered for him when our parents asked questions. And now, sitting 30,000 feet in the air, I realized something. If he didn't want me in his life, maybe he didn't deserve all the sacrifices I had made for him. I stared out the window as the sun began to rise above the clouds. The light painted the sky in gold and pink, and for the first time in years, I felt like I was seeing the world with new eyes. This wasn't just a trip. It was a rebirth. And as the plane carried me closer to Rome, I made myself a silent promise. I will never again let anyone make me feel like I don't belong, especially not him. The wheels of the plane touched down in Rome, and for a moment I just sat there, frozen. The captain's voice filled the cabin, announcing the local time, the weather, and welcoming us to Italy. But all I heard was silence, a kind of hum that filled my chest. I was here. When I stepped outside the airport, the warm air wrapped around me like a gentle embrace. Rome smelled different, rich coffee, fresh bread, faint traces of flowers from nearby stands. I stood there, clutching my suitcase, and thought, this is the first day of my new life. I didn't check my phone. I knew what day it was. Back home, the church bells would soon be ringing for my brother's wedding. Guests would be arriving, laughing, hugging, taking photos. And me? I wasn't part of that story anymore. For the first time, I wasn't heartbroken about it. Instead, I found myself wandering through cobblestone streets, eyes wide like a child seeing the world for the first time. Every corner of Rome seemed to breathe history. The walls were cracked, but beautiful. The voices around me were melodic, even when people were just ordering lunch. I stopped at a tiny cafe, drawn in by the smell of espresso. The barista smiled as she handed me a cup, and I sat outside, sipping slowly, watching people pass by. Couples holding hands, families laughing, tourists pointing at maps, and me, sitting alone, but not lonely. For so long, I believed being excluded from my brother's life meant I was unworthy, that something was wrong with me. But here, under the golden Italian sun, I felt something shift. Maybe it wasn't about me at all. Maybe he just couldn't see my worth. The thought both hurt and freed me. As I finished my coffee, I heard the faint sound of bells. For a second, I froze. I checked the time. Back home, it would be almost exactly when the ceremony started. I pictured him standing at the altar, smiling. I pictured my family, dressed in their best clothes, taking their perfect photos they believed I would have ruined. I laughed quietly to myself. Not a bitter laugh, but one of disbelief. They had no idea where I was, no idea what I was doing, no idea that instead of ruining their pictures, I was creating my own. Later that day, I found myself standing in front of the Trevi fountain. The sun reflected off the water, casting light across the marble statues. I reached into my pocket, pulled out a coin, and whispered a wish before tossing it in. I wished not for revenge, not even for my brother to regret what he said. I wished for myself, for strength, for courage, for the ability to keep walking forward, no matter who tried to hold me back. That night, as I lay in a small hotel bed, my phone buzzed relentlessly on the nightstand. Dozens of missed calls, messages from family. I turned it face down. I wasn't ready to answer them, not yet. Because deep down, I knew tonight was their wedding night. But soon, the real story would begin. The morning after the wedding, I woke up in Rome to the sound of church bells echoing through the city. For a moment, I just lay there, staring at the ceiling, letting the realization sink in. While my family celebrated a day they called the happiest of their lives, I wasn't there. And yet, I didn't regret it. I reached for my phone on the nightstand, and when I turned it on, it nearly vibrated out of my hand. Missed calls, dozens of them. Messages pouring in from relatives, cousins, even my parents. "Anna, where are you? Why didn't you show up?" This was unforgivable. How could you embarrass your brother like this? "You'll regret this. You've ruined everything." I stared at the words, my chest tightening, but I refused to cry. None of them asked if I was okay. None of them wondered why I hadn't come. To them, it was all about appearances, about the photos, about him, not me, never me. And then, buried in the messages, I saw one from him, my brother. "Don't bother contacting me again. You made your choice." I felt the sting of his words, but instead of breaking me, they reminded me of something important. He truly had no idea. He didn't realize that for years, while he lived like a king, I was the one keeping the ground steady beneath his feet. Every time his business dipped into the red, who covered the difference? Me. Every time he maxed out a credit card, who quietly paid it down so our parents wouldn't find out? Me. Every time he smiled at his fiancée and bragged about how well things were going, who stayed up past midnight fixing his financial mess? Me. He had convinced himself he was successful, independent, responsible. But the truth? He was standing on a foundation I built with my own 2 hands, and he never once said thank you. I looked out the window of my little hotel room, the Roman streets alive with music and laughter, and I whispered to myself, "Not anymore." That afternoon, I sat in a cafe with my laptop open, sipping espresso as I logged into the business accounts I had managed for so long. My fingers hovered over the keys. It would have been so easy to take everything to drain it, to hurt him the way he hurt me. But that wasn't who I was. I didn't need revenge. Instead, I simply stopped. Stopped transferring money from my own savings. Stopped covering his overdrafts. Stopped answering the endless financial emergencies he dumped on me like it was my duty. For the first time in years, the weight shifted off my shoulders. I closed the laptop and leaned back, feeling lighter than I had in a long time. Back home, they were probably still celebrating, still smiling for the cameras. They thought I had ruined their photos by not being there. What they didn't realize was that by the time they checked their accounts, it wouldn't be the photos they'd be worried about. It would be survival. That night in Rome, I was sitting on the Spanish Steps, watching the city glow under thousands of golden streetlights. The sound of laughter, clinking glasses, and music floated through the air. Tourists and locals alike passed by, their faces lit with joy. For the first time in years, I felt like I was simply part of the world. And somewhere across the ocean, my family was discovering the truth. I didn't see it with my own eyes, but I can picture it perfectly. The wedding had ended. The champagne glasses were empty, the flowers beginning to wilt, the guests gone home. My brother and his new wife, still in their expensive clothes, probably kicked off their shoes and checked their accounts, ready to bask in the glow of a perfect day. But instead of comfort, they found chaos. The overdraft alerts, the declined transactions, the balances that didn't make sense. For the first time, my brother's carefully constructed illusion of success cracked right in front of him. I could almost hear his voice. "This has to be a mistake." I could almost see him refreshing the screen over and over, hoping the numbers would magically change. But they wouldn't. Because the safety net he never acknowledged, the sister who worked tirelessly in the background, was gone. Meanwhile, in Rome, I dipped a spoon into a cup of gelato, savoring every bite. Pistachio. Sweet, creamy, perfect. I closed my eyes and let it melt on my tongue as the city hummed around me. My phone buzzed on the bench beside me. I ignored it. I knew who it was. Him. Maybe my parents. Maybe both. The panic must have already begun. They were probably demanding answers, accusing me of sabotage, wondering how I could do this to them. But here's the truth. I didn't do anything to them. I simply stopped doing everything for them. The funny thing is, I wasn't angry anymore. I wasn't even bitter. Sitting there under the Italian sky, I felt a strange kind of peace. Because for once, the weight wasn't mine to carry. I thought back to the words he had thrown at me. Don't come to the wedding. You'll just ruin the photos. What he didn't realize was that the photos weren't ruined. The accounts were. The lies he lived by. The facade he built. All of it was finally collapsing. Not because I attacked it, but because I walked away. I glanced at my phone one last time before turning it off again. The screen was filled with notifications. Dozens of missed calls. New voicemails. Unread messages piling up faster than I could swipe them away. But I didn't listen. I didn't read. Because in that moment, I realized something important. His life falling apart wasn't my burden anymore. It was his. And for the first time in years, mine was finally beginning. By the third day in Rome, the messages had become relentless. My phone was a storm of buzzing, vibrating, flashing notifications. My brother, my parents, even his new wife. At first, I ignored them all. I wandered through markets, tasted food so fresh it made me want to cry, and got lost in side streets that twisted like a maze. Every corner of Rome felt alive, and I wanted to soak in every drop of it. But by that night, after a long walk along the Tiber River, I finally gave in. Not out of guilt, not out of weakness, but because I wanted to hear his voice. I wanted to know how it felt for him now that the safety net was gone. When I pressed accept, his voice exploded through the speaker. Anna, what the hell did you do? I stayed silent for a moment, letting his panic fill the space between us. I could hear the edge in his voice, the fear he was trying so hard to disguise as anger. Answer me, he snapped. Our accounts are a mess. Cards are getting declined. Do you have any idea what you've caused? Finally, I spoke. My voice was calm, almost too calm. I didn't cause anything. I just stopped cleaning up your mess. He went quiet. Just for a second. And then he laughed, a bitter, disbelieving laugh. You're joking! You're seriously going to sit there and act like you're innocent? You've been helping me for years, and you suddenly decide to pull out right before my wedding. Do you have any idea how cruel that is? Cruel? I repeated, my hand tightening around the phone. Cruel is telling your own sister not to show up because she'll ruin your photos. Cruel is taking and taking and taking, and never once saying thank you. Cruel is pretending I don't exist until you need me to fix the pieces of your life you've broken. His breathing was uneven. I could picture him pacing, his face flushed, running a hand through his hair, the way he always did when he lost control. You can't just walk away, Anna. You owe me. That was it, the words that cut deeper than anything else. You owe me. I closed my eyes, inhaled the cool Roman air, and then let out a laugh. Not bitter, not broken, just free. No, I said softly. No, I don't owe you anything, not anymore. He started shouting again, his words tumbling over each other, a mixture of anger and desperation. But I didn't listen. I pulled the phone away from my ear, stared at the glowing screen for one long second, and then pressed end call. The silence that followed was like music. Standing on the riverbank, I looked out at the city lights reflecting on the water. My brother's world was crumbling, but mine was just beginning to rise. And deep down, I knew. That was only the first call. The next morning, I woke to the sound of my phone vibrating across the nightstand. For a moment, I considered ignoring it like before. But then, I saw the name flashing on the screen, Mom. I hesitated. A part of me still wanted to hear her voice, still wanted to believe that maybe she was calling to ask if I was okay. Maybe she had finally noticed my absence, not just at the wedding, but in their lives. I answered. Anna! My mother's voice cracked through the line, sharp and full of anger. What have you done to your brother? I felt my chest tighten. Not, how are you? Not, where are you? Just blame. Straight to blame. What do you mean? I asked, though I already knew. His accounts are a disaster, she hissed. His credit cards are blocked. His business partners are calling. Do you realize how humiliated he is? On his wedding week, of all times, you've destroyed everything for him. I stared at the ceiling of my little Roman hotel room, gripping the phone so tightly my knuckles went white. No, I said quietly. I didn't destroy anything. I just stopped saving him. Her silence was deafening. And then laughter, bitter, cruel. You always exaggerate. You're jealous, Anna. That's what this is. You couldn't stand seeing him happy, so you sabotaged him. The words sliced through me. Jealous. Sabotage. They had no idea. They had no idea how many nights I stayed up to fix his mistakes, how much of my own savings I poured into covering his debts, how many lies I told on his behalf to protect him. And all of it was invisible to them. To them, I was the problem. My father's voice came on next. He must have taken the phone from her. His tone was calm, but colder than I'd ever heard it. Anna, enough of this nonsense. Call the bank, fix his accounts, do it quietly, and we'll forget this happened. I let out a shaky laugh. Forget this happened? You mean forget that he told me not to come to his wedding because I'd ruined the photos? Forget that you've all treated me like a shadow for years? Stop being dramatic, my father snapped. Family comes first, and right now he needs you. You'll do this for him. I closed my eyes. My hands were trembling, but not from fear, this time, from anger. For years, I had let those words control me. Family comes first. But what they really meant was, he comes first. Always him, never you. I swallowed hard, my voice steady when I finally replied. No, not this time. I won't fix his mess. I won't fix any of your messes. I'm done. Before they could respond, I ended the call. I sat there in silence, my heart pounding, tears threatening to fall, but I didn't let them. For the first time, I had said it out loud. I was done, and as I looked out the window at the streets of Rome, alive and sunlit, I knew. I had finally chosen myself. By the end of that week, the messages had taken on a new tone. The frantic panic had turned into rage. My phone lit up with words I never imagined my own brother would send me. You're selfish. You've ruined my life. You'll regret this. I read them all in silence, sitting at a cafe table in Piazza Navona, the warm air filled with music from street performers. His words should have hurt me. Maybe once they would have. But now they felt like nothing more than echoes of the control he was losing. Still, a part of me underestimated him. I thought his anger would burn out from a distance, that he would eventually accept the truth and learn to stand on his own. I was wrong. On the 8th night, I heard a knock on my hotel door. At first, I assumed it was housekeeping or a delivery gone to the wrong room. But when I opened the door, my heart stopped. It was him, my brother, standing in the hallway of my hotel in Rome. For a moment, I couldn't breathe. His tie was gone, his shirt half unbuttoned, his face pale, but his eyes burning with fury. He looked nothing like the polished groom I had seen in the engagement photos. How did you even... I stammered. He shoved past me into the room, slamming the door behind him. You thought you could run away? That you could ruin my life from another country and I wouldn't come after you? I stared at him, stunned. My brother, who once used to protect me from bullies, was now the one throwing accusations like knives. "I didn't ruin your life," I said, my voice trembling but firm. "I just stopped saving it." His fists clenched at his sides. "Do you have any idea what's happening back home? My accounts are frozen. My wife is furious. Our parents are ashamed. My business is collapsing. And it's all because you decided to throw some tantrum." The word stung. Tantrum. As if years of silent sacrifice meant nothing. As if finally choosing myself was childish. I stepped closer, meeting his gaze. For once, I didn't back down. "This isn't a tantrum. This is freedom. I've carried you for years, and you never even noticed. You told me not to come to your wedding because I'd ruin your photos. But the truth? You ruined yourself." His jaw tightened. His eyes darted to my suitcase, still sitting in the corner of the room. "You're coming back," he said. Not a request. A command. The same command I had obeyed my whole life. But this time, I smiled. A small, steady smile. "No," I whispered. "I'm not." The silence between us was heavy, electric, dangerous. And for the first time, I realized this fight wasn't just about money. It was about control. About him finally seeing that I wasn't his shadow anymore. And he hated it. The morning after he stormed into my hotel room, I thought maybe he would calm down. Maybe, after a night of cooling off, he would see reason. But I should have known better. My brother was never one to accept defeat quietly. He was waiting for me outside. I stepped into the sunlit street, the city alive with chatter and footsteps, only to see him leaning against the wall near the entrance. His face was hard, his eyes bloodshot. He looked less like a groom enjoying his honeymoon, and more like a man unraveling. "Anna!" he barked, pushing off the wall. "We're not done!" People turned their heads, curious. Rome was full of tourists. Shouting was nothing new here. But something about the raw anger in his voice drew eyes. I kept walking, refusing to let him intimidate me. "Go home," I said firmly. But he followed, his voice rising. "You don't get to walk away. You think you're some kind of hero because you left me drowning? You think you're better than me?" His words echoed through the square. I felt my cheeks burn as strangers slowed to watch. A group of tourists paused, phones in hand. Somewhere, a street violinist stopped playing mid-song. I spun around, my patience gone. Better than you? No. But smarter than letting myself be used until there's nothing left of me? Yes. The words came out sharper than I expected, slicing the air between us. He froze, stunned that I had raised my voice. "You told me not to come to your wedding," I continued, louder now, my hands trembling but steady at the same time. "You told me I'd ruin your photos. Do you know how that felt? Do you know what it's like to be erased from your own family? And after all that, you still expected me to save you?" His face twisted, anger and embarrassment warring inside him. "You're making a scene!" he hissed, glancing at the crowd gathering around us. I let out a bitter laugh. For once, people are actually seeing me. Not the invisible sister, not the fixer behind the curtain. Me. And you can't stand it. He lunged closer, his voice dropping to a venomous whisper. "You're going to regret this, Anna. I swear." "No," I interrupted, my voice stronger than I thought possible. "The only one who'll regret anything is you." Silence. Even the crowd seemed to hold its breath. My brother stood there, shaking with rage, but powerless. For the first time in our lives, the power was mine. I turned and walked away, my footsteps echoing against the cobblestones. Behind me, I heard murmurs ripple through the crowd, but I didn't look back. As I crossed the square, I felt lighter, freer. The weight of years of silence and sacrifice was gone, replaced with something new dignity. And in that moment, I realized I hadn't just walked away from him. I had walked into myself. A week later, I found myself standing at the edge of the sea. The waves of the Mediterranean rolled in slow and steady, their rhythm like a heartbeat against the shore. The air smelled of salt and freedom, and for the first time in my life, I felt completely untethered. I had left Rome behind for the coast, needing space to breathe, to think, to be alone. My brother's face, twisted with rage in that crowded square, still haunted me sometimes when I closed my eyes. His words still lingered. "You'll regret this." But here, with the horizon stretching endlessly before me, I knew he was wrong. I hadn't destroyed him. I hadn't sabotaged his life. All I had done was step out of the role he had forced me into. The fixer, the safety net, the invisible shadow holding up his world. And without me propping him up, he finally had to face the reality of who he was. For years, I believed I was the broken one. That I was the problem. That if I just gave more, worked harder, sacrificed longer, maybe I'd earn a place in his life. But the truth was simple and brutal. I was never broken. I was just used. And now, I was free. I walked closer to the water, the waves licking at my sandals, and thought about the last time I heard his voice. The day I left him standing in that Roman square, surrounded by strangers. He didn't follow me. He didn't call again. Maybe he finally understood that his power over me was gone. Maybe he was too ashamed to face me again. I'll never know. I picked up a stone from the sand, smooth and cool in my palm. For a moment, I held it tight, imagining it carried all the weight I had carried for so long, the expectations, the blame, the guilt, the silence. And then I threw it into the sea. It sank without a sound. And just like that, I let go. As the sun dipped lower, painting the sky in gold and crimson, I sat on the shore and whispered to myself, I am not the girl who ruins photos. I am the girl who saves herself. A smile tugged at my lips, small but real, because I knew this was only the beginning. There were more cities to see, more memories to make, more pieces of myself to discover. My brother had lost his safety net. My parents had lost their scapegoat. But me? I had found everything I thought I'd never deserve: peace, strength, and the courage to live for myself. The tide rose, the waves kissed my ankles, and I felt it deep in my bones. This wasn't an ending. This was my beginning.